Hello and happy Monday, people. If you're seeing me right now, that means that you just survived the hardest part of the work week. Congratulations, you did it. And you made it here with me, hanging out in our OH.Report world headquarters, our lair in downtown Mansfield, Ohio, for an all-new, fresh episode of the OH.Report video podcast. My name is Brian Skoronsky, back with you again today after taking last week off, so happy to be feeling better, healthier. I just got a compliment that said that my face was looking great, actually. So thank you for that compliment. And just happy to be back in the saddle, hanging out with you guys. If only my favorite NFL franchise could look as good as me on Sundays. We'll get into that in a little bit. But first, I got to bring in the second, we'll say that the better half here of the duo here on the podcast. Travis Berardi, because his team's all winners this weekend. I mean, come on. Northmor set the scene on Friday.
The Falcons at Hillsdale.
The Falcons
big ol' win
good.
there.
West
Mountaineers,
Virginia,
knocking off Jory Hollenbeck's Kansas team on a late touchdown.
Yep.
Steelers looking really good. I mean, even the Pirates won yesterday, and they got Cincinnati's manager fired. So, I mean, it's all looking good. I am glad. You do look great, sir. After going 10 rounds, looked like Rocky knocked you out with those whatever weeds got you all allergic reaction, but you do look right back good like that.
Human again.
You do. You look good, man.
I should
you
almost
look good.
Joy, if you really want to at some point, you're allowed to show the picture.
No. Nope.
It was rough.
Nope.
It was like I had two faces, one growing over the outer layer.
It literally looked like you fought Rocky. Like, if you want to know what Brian looked like, watch Rocky 1 at the end of that movie. I mean,
oh, if anybody's wondering, so I have a real bad reaction to like poison ivy, weeds, just any of the ivies, really. It's so, I try to help out around the house, Travis. Sometimes, I notice a couple of things, and I'm a man with some high expectations for how my little piece of property.
It's a beautiful place.
So.
I mean, you and I helped build, and Jory too, build that big gazebo you got back there.
Hands, baby. So I use these bare hands.
Yeah.
Stupidly. And I just pulled a couple of weeks on a lot. I saw a couple of dangerous looking ones, and I asked my wife.
They were dangerous for you.
Out of the way. And next thing I know, I'm being shipped off to hospitals. My eyes are literally welled shut. I had two faces. I was this big, and I still had a big week. I had to travel to New York and go do a job. Kept my shades on the whole time. No one was really the wiser. They just thought that maybe I had one too many donuts on the flight. I was looking a little chubby.
Hey, at least if you did it one time. Now you learn. Right?
This is the 10th year in a row, but the last. All right,
we'll see next year, folks. Mark it down, folks. 1 year from now,
I gotta shut it down.
If we have one podcast that doesn't happen, just think. There it is.
There it is. Yes, that's the actual photo, and those I can tell you, the lump on my neck was the worst. Like that three little butt chins that he had. It was tough to get through that, but I'm here, and I mean, you can still. I can kind of see. I still got the raccoon eyes. Like I'm
not bad.
Exfoliating a little bit, but at least human. And thank you for the compliment. My wife said I look great. All right,
you look good, man.
Coming up on tonight's show, we've got your weekly KMAC report. We're gonna dissect all the sports, give you the inside scoop on the stats, the schedules, who's really having some big time runs right now. Golf, I'm told, is already in the sectionals.
First sectionals. So we had a couple teams there. Fredericktown, Centerburg participated this afternoon. We have some cross country.
Two big time performances.
A couple big performances there. And football, a lot of big stuff going on football wise. Volleyball as well. We have a lot of. I always say it's the most underrated conference in the state of Ohio is the Northmor Athletic Conference. A lot of big performances. Sport in and sport out. But also, more well-known conference is the MOAC.
Yeah.
We have somebody on the show for that, too, coming up.
Yeah, you lost me there for a moment.
Yeah,
Okay.
Trying to segue, bud.
We've got a bunch of football, of course, coming up, too. We'll have your top 10 plays of the week. Looking forward to breaking that down for you guys. And then, Travis, will have your Friday night phenoms. Those are from week number 5, the phenominees. And then those top 10 plays will be out there for your viewing and your voting delights.
Double dip tonight, remember that.
And that's right. And make sure that your votes count ×2 if you hit us up live and free here on the podcast. Lucas Wickheiser is standing by. He wants to talk about some Buckeyes, and then probably doesn't want to talk about about the Browns, but we're going to make them anyways. We'll bring up those two topics as we slide inside the Cleebus and tell you all about those two teams. And then we'll lead you up to the second kickoff of Monday Night Football, a double dose going down tonight.
Next 2 weeks.
Jacksonville and Buffalo, I think they're underway right now. And then we'll lead you guys up to Bengals versus Commanders, so another Ohio team competing in the NFL. They kick off, I believe, at 8:15. But let's begin the show, Travis, with, as you mentioned, an MOAC guy.
Yep.
A local football coach who's on track to start his season just as well as they did last year, and it was a historic season for them, if you can remember. 10 wins.
A championship season.
A championship in that MOAC, and then all the way to week number 12 they went. This man is an educator.
Friend of the show.
He is a real estate agent. He is a father of 3 and the coach of the 5-0 Ontario football team. Please welcome Maribeth's husband, Mr. Aaron Eckert.
Woo!
What's up, Coach? How you doing, bro?
I'm good, man. How are you guys?
Hey, doing well, man. I know that you got 3 young tykes at the crib, and they're all boys too, so it's probably never a dull moment. How is the family time in the evening here on a Monday for you? What are you getting into?
Oh, tonight's not too bad. We got home from football and we ate dinner, and it's about getting kids' homework done and getting all that stuff ready to go for tomorrow with them. And other than that, it'll be bedtime here soon, and then we'll probably watch a little bit of TV, and I'll probably do some football, and then get it tomorrow and do it all over again.
Oh, you gotta love the rinse, recycle, repeat, baby. All football all the time, and a little bit of family in there. What about Monday at school, coming off of homecoming weekend? That's always really exciting, of course, for the kids. And then you get the dub at home, 5-0. So is there a little bit of a buzz now going through the classrooms, would you say, specifically within the football team and some of the fans?
Yeah, the community over here's always been supportive, and anytime I kind of go out, they say, hey, thanks, coach, good job, keep it going. So it's an awesome feeling to, be in the community and have people, come up and talk to you about what's going on and just being a part of what's happening.
It's a huge week for every single school. Homecoming is at all of the programs for football. Do you feel any type of relief or some extra satisfaction when you get that win? You earn a homecoming dub because, the community's out there. It's probably one of the biggest crowds that you're going to have the entire season. And then there's a big dance going on the next day. So you want your boys to come in with a little bit of riz factor, of course. So what feeling did you get after that win on Friday?
Anytime you get a win, it's a great feeling. And to be honest, I think most football coaches would say this is probably not their favorite week of the year.
Sure.
Just because of everything else that's going on, all the distractions. And it's a good thing. Kids experience multiple things in high school. It's not just about high school football, but, for us, we're very, happy we were able to go out and beat a quality opponent like Clear Fork, and we were able to do it at home and then have the fans there and the community support. It's just awesome. So happy for the win. Glad the kids had fun at the dance, but not so. I'm glad it only happens once a year.
Yeah, a really good fight put up by Clear Fork in that game. You got up early, but then they battle back. It's a one-score game early on in that fourth quarter, but you end up dropping the hammer on them, Coach, late with the aggressive running attack, more than 300 yards for your offense again, and that seems to be your identity this season. You use the run to set up those explosive passes, and then you play enough great defense that you're able to remain perfect so far on the season. So has that been something that you anticipated being your strategy from the preseason and the summer workouts, that you thought that you would have a great running attack and a quality defense, and every now and again you would just have your OSU commit try to put it up? Or has this developed a little bit since you saw him week 1 against Lexington and you were like, okay, I got a couple of stud thoroughbreds in the backfield, might want to give them the football behind this great O-line?
I think that's one of the things is when you try to build a program, and just starting with Chris Miller when we did, one of the things we wanted to make sure of was that we had a good offensive defensive line. I think that's where everything starts. Whether you're throwing or running the ball, those guys up front have just done a fantastic job on both sides of the ball. And I think that's where us, and it sets the stage offensively with us rushing the ball. Obviously, having Bodpin Miller is a special talent. And then you have Mason Van Tilberg, who's come on and had a really nice start to his senior year, and is just a dynamic athlete in the backfield, along with Gavin Miller and James Mahan that also go in there and have some rushing yards as well. So we're very fortunate to have those guys and be able to run behind an offensive line that's done a great job so far for us this year.
I think the last few years have proven that you can pretty much always rely on Mr. Everything, Bob Penn, to get out there and get the job done. I hear he even sells tickets for you guys, a couple of programs before he gets into the game. Quarterback, defense this year. I think he kicks it out there, never comes off the field, always smiling, a good time, and just an overall quality person to have as the centerpiece of your team. So having a dude like that, what does he do for you in terms of the overall production and confidence of the football team? Because he's clearly more to this organization than just a good football player.
Sure, people see him as a quarterback and him scoring touchdowns or throwing the ball, or but he's he's a good leader behind the scenes. He's a kid that leads with his actions a lot at practice and has taken on additional leadership roles this year in terms of just kind of getting us ready to go at practice. And I'm proud of him. And then basically he's played everywhere from linebacker to defensive end to safety to corner. He's been all over our defense this year, really wherever we've asked him to go, like, hey, we need you to do this week, this week. He's been like, yep, that's no problem, coach. I got you. So, when you get a kid that's that talented, that is in it for the team and wants to do right by the team, it's a pretty special thing to have.
The offense, though, has clearly been more than just Mr. Miller out there. Travis has a question for you about your emerging senior running back.
Yeah, you talked about it a little bit, but Mason Van Tilberg, coming in last week, over 500 yards rushing, how important is it to have him to kind of open things up for Bogpin? Because his running attack focuses defenses on him a little bit, and then Bogpin's able to run up the middle and get a couple touchdowns against Clear Fork like we saw last week.
Mason's just so shifty, and, it's a nice dynamic to have. And we've had some good backs here recently. Chase Tudor was a really good back for us, second all-time leading rusher, and Mason's just a different type of back. He's shifty, and he's for his size is super hard to bring down. He just kind of squirms and twists and turns, and next thing you know, he's running 40 yards for a touchdown. So we're super fortunate to have Mason on the team, and he's doing a great job for us this year.
And then defensively, you talked a little bit about Bogpin Miller putting himself anywhere on the defensive side. Was that the plan going into this season, having him play on both sides of the ball as well as a little special teams?
Yeah, again, when you have a kid that's the talented Bodpin Miller is, you want to try to get the most out of it without overusing him in a way. And so we have some defensive assignments when things get close. He's a competitive kid. We're playing River Valley a couple weeks ago. Next thing you know, he just kind of runs in and he said, I'm playing corner and on their best receiver, and there's nothing you can do. So nothing you can really do about it. It's like, okay, well, I guess that solves that problem, because he's kind of like an eraser for us. He just, when he goes in, he just takes whoever he's guarding out of the game. They don't throw it his way anymore. So it's nice defensively, but we got to look out for him too and make sure he's getting off. He is our quarterback, but he stepped up in the kicking game this year. He punts for us. He kicks off for us. He's just kind of a do-it-all kind of kid.
Does that make you nervous at all when you just see him run in on defense? Like, that's my quarterback. If he gets hurt, I have some problems.
No, he's a competitor. He's a football player. There's lots of people that have asked since he's committed to Ohio State, why doesn't he play receiver, and why doesn't he do this, or why he should only do this? And it's like, what? The kid's a football player. He just wants to play, and he's a competitor. And so whenever the game, gets close, he just wants to do whatever he can to help the team win. And so if that's play safety, or if that's play receiver if we asked him to, or if that's play running back, or if that's, hey, I need you to kick the ball off, I'm going to make a tackle, or I need you to catch a punt, like, he's in to do it all.
Yeah, you need a guy like that to get through the gauntlet that is the MOAC schedule. More than half the league has a winning record right now, Coach. And you look at the top half and all the quality quarterbacks, many multi-year starters are in there. 6-1 record ended up getting the job done for you and Shelby a season ago. You've only seen a couple of teams so far within the MOAC in terms of head-to-head for yourself, but do you feel like this is a deeper, more talented league from top to bottom than it was when you won it last year?
I think every year it's just kind of that way. And, I think in the conference, I think we have 4 returning All-Ohio quarterbacks. So, every week more than half the teams are going to give you an all-how quarterback out there, which isn't, as much fun as if you're a defensive coordinator trying to figure out how to contain, the DeVito and the kid from Pleasant and Galleon's kid wasn't an all-Ohio kid last year, but gosh, is he elusive. So, every team seems to have a dude at quarterback that you got a game plan for and try to figure out how you're going to stop them. So I don't know that it's any deeper than it was last year, because last year I think the conference is really good, but this year it's just as good as it is probably every year.
Your team looks a lot different, though, this year than it did a season ago. You mentioned departing Mason Studer, second leading rusher in the history of the program. You had a lot of seniors on that team, so players will end up getting the credit for filling in those gaps, the voids that are left by graduation. But if you can specifically talk about some of the things that your staff had to do during the offseason to kind of tailor what you guys are really good at towards the roster and the dudes that you have this year, what are some areas where you feel like you're doing things a little bit differently than you did in 2023?
First of all, that's kind of the fun part, right? It's a new team every year. You have some pieces that stay, and you have some pieces that go. And for us, it's about kind of goes back to building the program, and it all starts in the weight room for us. We're a team that lifts probably more than any other team in the area. We lift 4 days a week in season. We lift 4 days a week out of season. But in terms of like putting this team together, sometimes you don't know until you get out there in the summer, and you've got to try to figure out, hey, are we like this year for us? We weren't quite sure if we were going to go 5 wide and showcase Bodpin, or if we were going to kind of continue with what we do offensively and try to run the football and then throw it off that. So that was a struggle for us to try to figure out what we wanted to do. We had kind of both things kind of going early on in the summer, and then we've kind of just molded into what we currently are, and that's a team that runs a football first and foremost behind a really good offensive line and tries to play really good defense.
Who are some of the guys that have filled in for those graduating players last year that have really shined and answered some of those question marks you had going into the season?
I'll start on defense with that one. I think a kid that's played for a 3-year starter for us. This will be his 4th year starting, and his name's Landon Sowards. It's a kid that started at center for us the last 3 years, super intelligent. This year kind of transformed his body. Now he's kind of a H-back, tight end, and he's our starting middle linebacker. And, just like last week against Madison, he had 22 tackles and 4 tackles for loss and a sack, and he's kind of been our defensive leader and gets us in the right sets defensively, and he does a great job for us. And then you have guys like Trent McGlott is an offensive defensive lineman that's really come on this year as a junior and played a little bit as a sophomore last year on a pretty talented team, but has really come into his own. And you could go up and down we had to replace 3 senior linebackers from last year. And now, Alan Oblisk is another kid that's a senior that stepped up and he's our number 1 tight end and our starting same linebacker. And, we've got at safety, Noah Poolsy kid that's, a senior this year that, again, played some last year, but has really stepped up to be kind of our leader at the safety spot. And you look at offensively, a guy like Austin Mullins is another senior that's kind of been a program guy that's bought in, and he's having a good senior year at center. And then receiver wise, this is one of the areas that we're still trying to figure out and get better at each week. Our passing numbers haven't necessarily been where we want them, but those guys are getting better each week. Guys like Landon Foltz is a guy, if you watched last year, that played quite a bit, but John Mahan on the other side, and again Noah Poole and Bo Hefner stepped up as a senior, and we got some young guys that are still trying to figure it out. But that's kind of the joy of coaching a football team. You're just kind of constantly trying to mold and trying to figure out what are people good at and how do you put them in the best spots to be successful.
Well, you've been doing a great job of that here lately, Coach. Been very impressed with what we've seen specifically from your defense so far this year. 2 scores to 4 of your 5 opponents so far, so that's going to go a long way to winning some ball games. And going on the road here these next couple of weeks, I know you're at Pleasant here in a couple of weeks. You're at Galleon this week. Tough environments to go play in, so I'm sure that you're going to have your team prepared for those environments to try to go out there and stay in that MOAC title race, because we were talking on the pigskin, over or under the 1 loss for a champion this year. So it's going to be a fight to the end. Week 10 is probably going to decide this thing. So it's going to be a fun race, man. And I'm glad that you put yourself obviously right in the thick of things and at the top of it here early on. So congratulations, man. Continued success to you, Aaron, and appreciate you giving us some time tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Coach.
Absolutely.
All right. Aaron Eckert, the head coach of the 5-0 Ontario Warriors. I felt like this team heading into the season, preseason, I picked them at number 2 in the league behind Shelby because we thought they were going to be good, but I didn't know why other than
question marks.
Bogdan.
Yeah,
I was just like, they've got him, and what can they figure out from there? They found a lot of different pieces.
Well, especially like I had to ask about Mason Van Tilburg because he really opens things up for Bogpin. If you only have one player out there, they can just stack the box for Bogpin. But when you have Mason Van Tilburg and when you have guys like Landon Foltz or Noah Pohl or John Mahone who combine about 400 yards receiving, it does enough to open it up for your big play athlete, and that's exactly what they've done. And then defensively, I mean, he said he lost 3 linebackers last year, but players have stepped up, and they're averaging, I think, only like 15 points per game defensively. 15.8. It might go up to about 16 with the 17 points they give up from 14. 14. So, it should go down about 15 points. So, it's like they haven't skipped a beat from last year.
Yeah, it's been impressive to watch. And 8-0 last year is the start that they had. Well, we'll see if they can get there. They got a couple tough ones, though, these next 2 weeks.
Now, I forgot it was homecoming. You had somebody attend homecoming at Ontario, did you not?
Oh, yeah. I know someone who was there, was at the dance, and I was told got an award at the end for being one of the most dedicated dancers, so I'll have to confirm exactly what that was.
Did you get to meet the date? I know we were talking about this
before. Didn't. I had to DJ a wedding on Saturday, so I left very early. We dropped off my daughter, is who I'm talking about, who's a sophomore this year, at her friend's house, and there was about 10 different girls, mostly soccer players for Ontario, all hanging out. But it looked like they had a good date. I saw some of the TikToks. These kids are incredibly creative. Like, I was pretty impressed. She showed me 2 videos that they made. They did like one where they're dancing in their street clothes before, and then like she does like a little twirl, and then all of a sudden, boom, she's in her dress. Another one, this boy leapfrogs her, hits the camera, and then boom, he backs out, and they're in the tux and the dress. So, I got to give it up to these modern day kids. That's all they've ever known, of course, is just having that phone in their pocket since birth. But they utilize it to its fullest potential. It was pretty cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, the most technology I had growing up was a Talk Boy. You don't know what a Talk Boy is, watch Home Alone 2.
I think I do. I had a Game Boy, though.
Game Boy 2, yeah.
That was cool. All right. So let's move on now, Trav, to something that we're going to do every single week now on this show.
Yes, sir.
And that is the Knox County Athletic Conference Report.
Northmor Athletic Conference Report. Fancy.
Yeah, let's come right out of the gates here. And football season, baby. We are at the midway point. Only one undefeated team remaining. Only one winless team remaining overall here in the league, Trav. Northmor, baby. Obviously the most impressive win that we saw all year last week against Danville. And this team, offensively, they've scored 41 plus points in 4 of their last 5 games, which is all their games. They've only allowed 53 all season long. They clearly, I think, are the team to beat. Everyone's looking at them as the kings of the conference.
I was not expecting the outcome against Danville that it turned out to be. I thought it was going to be a lot closer. It was going to be like the last couple of years. But I think having a couple guys that were hurt going into the week, or not playing going into the week, play. We had Cam Goldbach, who had a bum ankle until Thursday, came out. It was huge on the game. Dish in the secondary was a questionable, came in, and then Jack Swanger. He had an appendectomy after week 1. Didn't know if he'd be able to be back for this game. Does come back, and he finishes 4 catches, 90 yards, and 2 big touchdowns. It just opened up the passing attack for only one half of play, as you'll see in the phenominees. But A.J. Bauer, 323. He's over 1,000 for the season already, and 15 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. But, 4 players. Cam Goldbach's at 99 with over 100 yards receiving. The rushing attack, Becker and Campbell over 200 each. It's just a very balanced squad, and then defensively they're doing really well. Like you said, they haven't given up that many points, but
10 points per game.
Yeah, 10 points per game, 10.6 to be official, and only 7 points given up in the fourth quarter. That's big.
That's a huge number. As you look down at everybody below them in the standings, we'll begin with EK. Blake Elliott rushed for over 600 yards the last 2 games.
Yep.
They outscored their foes 83-22 during that stretch. For them, though, the next 2 weeks, Mount Gilead, Northmor, they get both of them at home.
Yes, they do.
But that's going to be make or break for the kids in purple over these next 2 weeks.
Yeah, Blake Elliott just breaks the school record with 302 against Loudonville, and then does it again, breaks his own record with 304 at Cardington, but that opens things up. And having a healthy Jax Lester back,
That's
we
huge.
thought he was done after week 2, misses the Crawford game. They put up a bit of a fight, but can't score in that game. And then they get back, they play Loudonville, he gets back, and then last week too, he's almost back to 100% health. But with his passing attack and with the running of Blake Elliott the last 2 weeks, 606 yards in 2 games, I don't think I've seen that before. Even with Dane Nauman, that's just phenomenal for that running back. But they're showing 2-0 in the conference. They get like you said, the next 2 games are at home. They get Northmor. We'll see. And then Fredericktown at 3rd. Northmor heads to Fredericktown. They eked out a 14-12 win over Mount Gilead on Friday. But hey, we'll see what the Freddies can do at home.
Yeah, I was reading some articles. The Freddies are really just a couple plays away from being 5-0. They are a sneaky contender. Northmor, you said, they got coming up, and then they get to go to Loudonville the following week. So if they could somehow upset the Golden Knights, obviously they would have another game where they could feel really good about themselves and look out for Fredericktown. A team that I love their quarterback, and they got a couple of nice weapons on the perimeter too. So the Freddies very much obviously in the mix, still 2-0. And for Danville, after that surprising loss, their only other loss, Hopewell out in a much tighter game. That was one that came down to the wire.
2 state-ranked teams they lost to.
They, at least for them on paper, they're at home this week. They got Loudonville, and then at Cardington next week. So the potential is certainly right in front of the Blue Devils to try to regain a lot of confidence here heading into week 8.
Yeah, and with the region that they have as well, it's very favorable. If Northmor runs the table, okay, they won't get the KMAC championship, but I mean, in Division 7 Region 27, there's not that many teams this year. Maybe Trimble, a team Northmor saw in the playoffs last year, maybe a Beaver Eastern, but if Danville can right the ship after last week, get back to playing Danville football, it could still be a long season. They just might not win the conference, but we saw that 2 years ago when they went to the regional championship and it still
right on the
hurts
cusp.
Thinking about that last play. But they were so close to making it to the Final Four, and they didn't win the conference. Remember, they lost to Centerburg, who finished 10-0 that year. So there's still a lot for Danville to play, and you never know with Northmor. Still a couple teams down there that they could knock off the Golden Knights, and they're right back at even with 1 loss.
And speaking of Centerburg, they've averaged 43 points per game their last couple, and they gave Northmor by far their best game so far of the season, pushed them to the brink. They're at home this week. They got Cardington, and then they're at Mount Gilead. So, again, the 2 very winnable games to get them back in contention to feel like they can compete for the KMAC at the end of it all.
Well, something Northmor and Centerburg have, they have the ability of balance. The KMAC's usually a running conference. You have maybe a little bit of East Knox as well because Jax Lester's in there. They can throw the ball too. But other than those 3 teams, who else has that passing running ability? I don't really know. Cardington with Wyatt Denny, they can run, but can they pass? Mount Gilead starting to get a little bit of a pass attack, but really haven't shown anything yet. Danville we saw against Northmor. They some quick outs. I think they had 80 yards passing, but they really didn't get anything downfield. If you can get that balance, you're going to have a better chance of winning, and Centerburg does have that. And like you said, they nearly knocked off Northmor. If it wasn't for Cohen Becker going all Tavon Austin in that game, Centerburg might be sitting atop the standings undefeated at 2-0, but you never know. I mean, being Lenardi Berardi, which I'll have next week on the show, Centerburg in the same region as Northmor, you never know. We might get another matchup in the playoffs. That'd be something worth watching. But look out for the Trojans. They've really impressed me, and they've came out of nowhere too. I thought this was going to be a year where they're going to be okay, they're going to be good, but not as good as I've seen them so far. And it's only 5 games in. Yeah,
I like Blaine Ball. I like the running attack. They've got Trevin Harris in the passing game too. It's going to be a team to keep an eye on as things start shaking out here over the season second half. Trav, we've got some stat leaders too here for the foosballs. We got them let's take a look at the passing leaders so far, and I gotta imagine that AJ Bauer right at the top of the list for a lot of these statistics, and then there's Ball, Lester, and then Blake Sipes rounding it out. But definitely Northmor, that they've shown that the dudes they have on the outside, obviously Becker's a dual threat. You want to hand him the football as much as you can. But if you don't just drop back and pass at least 20 times with those wideouts, I think you're doing yourself a disservice. That's what the Golden Knights have done. That's why they've been so lethal.
Yeah, they have 17 receptions for Cohen Becker out of the backfield. Big play, Bo Landon had a couple catches. 2 minutes in, had a big catch. He had that catch right there. So 3 touchdowns for Landon. Jack Swenger comes back, catches 2 against Danville, so he's at 3. Cam Goldbach, tight end, 2 touchdowns. Cohen Becker, like I said, has 5. Will Naylor has 1. So there you go. You have 5 players that have already caught touchdowns from A.J. Bauer, and then you have 4 other players that have receptions, so they can spread it out. And then we haven't talked about Carson Campbell, who we had as a phenomenee a few times last year. He's not going to make the rushing leaders, but he's in there as well to complement Becker. So Northmor, a complete offense. And with A.J. Bauer slinging it around, he has a 71%, almost a 72% completion percentage and only 3 interceptions in 5 games. That's a very, very good statistic to have for your play caller when you have so many big-name receivers and running backs around you. But, Blaine Ball. We had questions about quarterback going in for Centerburg, but he has really shown out this year with 714 passing yards. His main receivers, he has 3 receivers over 100 yards. Trevin Harris, Isaiah Suley, and then Miles Marshall. And he's had multiple receivers catch touchdowns. He's had 5. So, again, kind of like a carbon copy of Northmor, a little bit younger, but they're getting that experience, like I said, and they're getting better every week.
Ball a little bit better, being able to take off and run to pose that threat out of the backfield where he can use his legs, the escapability. You see him there going 95-plus yards for a touchdown in a big win a couple of weeks ago. And since we're watching a rushing play, let's check out the rushing leaders now in the KMAC. And no surprise that Elliott, the top dog right now, but Sipes, a quarterback, right behind him. So he really has shown that he's much more than just an athlete. He can throw it a little bit more this year, but 8 touchdowns rushing already for Blake, and right behind Blake at the number 2 spot.
Yeah, and another name that you don't see in there, but Elijah Roush, 312 rushing yards as well. So he can hand it off every once in a while. You got that RPO. And Sipes with 590 yards passing, so he is a complete quarterback. He can take off with the speed. He can hand it off to Roush, or he can throw it to one of 3 receivers that have over 100 yards receiving, Brody Davis, Gavin Toombs, or Dalton Lang. Says Fredericktown, they haven't been putting up the points that Northmor has, but, again, they have the ability that they have multiple players where you can't just key on one.
That's why I think it's going to be such a fun conference down the stretch here as all these teams start playing each other over the next few weeks. The wide receiver leaders for the league. How about Hirschberger up in the top spot in terms of yardage, 445 of them. But Becker sitting there with all those touchdowns. That's big time.
He got most of them against Centerburg as well, and a quarter of it was in one reception to give them the lead in the third quarter. But that's why him and Bo Landon are right there, 1 and 2. And then look at the 2 Bulldogs down there from East Knox as well. Cooper and Clark, they've been in the top 6 for the last couple of weeks. But, Jax Lester is back, and that's why East Knox, that Northmor East Knox game might be the next biggest one on the calendar after next week. But Brody Davis, Fredericktown, I mentioned him being one of the main receivers. He's right up there with 246. But Cohen Becker, 5 total touchdowns receiving so far this year. It's just one of those, right out of the slot, out of the backfield, he catches it. But the speed he has allows him to get into the end zone. And Bo Landon, I keep calling it, he's Big Play Bo. He'll jump up. He'll take it away from somebody. He'll mosh you. He'll do whatever to get the touchdown. That's why you have 2 Golden Knights in there. But Josiah Hirschberger, he's had a very good year for a Loudonville team that's kind of struggled. He's been Dylan Wade's pretty much only receiver. Wade has 566 passing yards, but Hirschberger with 445 of those. So teams are able to key on him. He only has 1 touchdown on the season. So people, once he gets in the red zone, people really, shut that down as of right now. But they have a good, at least he has a good, solid big play receiver down there. It's just Loudonville, they need a little bit more time. They're a young squad, but he's one of the pieces that they can build around.
Yeah, since scoring those 24 points in week 1 against Mapleton, only 21 over the last 4 weeks for Loudonville. So offense certainly has been at a premium for them. Let's wrap up football here, and let's move on to the hardwood and talk about some V-ball, where I feel like 2 dominant teams.
Yep.
One still in the mix, and the other 5 developing and or just not going to have the type of year that can compete for a KMAC championship. But certainly you would think those top 3 still alive for the conference title. But Centerburg only losses so far at Olentangy, at Heath,
Yep.
Division I programs. They've swept their other 12 matches.
Yeah, they have a sweep streak of 21 in the Knox-Morrow Athletic Conference.
Ooh.
I saw them against East Knox on Thursday, and they are pretty darn impressed. They have so many players that can just get you a kill, they're multiple multi-asset players, you could say, because there's I think 3 or 4 players that have over 100 kills, but then have about 100 digs as well, and a few and 20 to 30 blocks. I mean, they can do everything, and they stay in the lineup the whole time. You see with most teams sub in and out because they can't play the back line. Well, these Lady Trojans, they play it all, and then they do have players that can come off the bench as well and get you some big defensive plays or kills. So they're a very complete team, but don't count out Fredericktown. They did get swept pretty handedly at Centerburg, but that Freddie Berg matchup, that's going to be the last match of the regular season. You never know what can happen there. And then Loudonville, in from the Mid-Buckeye Conference. We've seen them. They dominated the MBC. They put up a fight. Their 2 losses are to the 2 teams ahead of them. So they've already inserted them in there into this conference pretty well. Northmor, they shoot themselves in the foot too many times, especially early on in the season. The tri-match loss to Clear Fork and Lucas early on in the season very easily could have won those 2, and they could be 6-5 right now instead of 4-7. Fredericktown, one of their losses, they lost to the 3 teams ahead of them. Fredericktown, they did play to 4 sets. They were competitive in that one. Then the other 2, not as much, but you got to play everybody again. So you never know. It's one of those teams that kind of young, but are getting better as the season goes on. Then after that, Danville, nice one in Devil Dog Part 1. Cardington, they're a team that's normally very good. It's a down year for Cardington, but they'll be back.
You never see this from them.
Yeah. Then the Lady Dogs of East Knox and Mount Gilead back there, 4 wins overall. Mount Gilead still to get a victory. But, at the top, like you said, I think you're right. Centerburg, Fredericktown, Loudonville, but I really think it's going to be Centerburg and Fredericktown playing each other that last game of the regular season to determine if we have an outright or a co-champion.
Birds are getting hot. They've won 4 straight, only dropped 1 set during that run. And for Fredericktown, back-to-back sweeps of Danville and Shekinah
Christian.
So, love what you're seeing
we'll
from
see
both
them
of them.
against Northmor tomorrow, Thursday night, too.
Yeah, a lot of KMAC games going down this week. Fredericktown at Mount Gilead tomorrow, at Northmor Thursday. So, the anticipation, if history were to repeat itself, obviously they're going to get a couple of more wins. We'll see. And then for the Berg, they host Loudonville tomorrow. Huge one.
Yeah.
And then Cardington, not what they've been, but they get them coming up on Thursday. So those are the games to keep an eye on this week in the KMAC. Stat leaders for volleyball.
We have multiple. The first time we just showed you kills, but we have multiple tonight. But let's start with those kills leaders. And the list's pretty much the same, but just a little bit shuffled around from that first update we had on kills, and it'll show kills, hit percentage, and kill percentage. Maya Bryant, Fredericktown. We have multiple Fredericktown Lady Freddies once again. Ella Bout and Lily Rose in there. 162 and 132 each. Julia Orndorff from Centerburg. I saw her against East Knox. She was our MVP. She lit things up. She has a very pure spike. 151. That's why her kill percentage is 44.5, which leads the conference, and her hitting percentage is 354, which is well above the national average. Sophia Schultz, there's Loudonville, right there with 130, and Bailey Blakesley as well for Centerburg. She was, I'd say, my MVP runner-up in that match, over 100 kills, hitting 37%, and just under 200 for hitting. But you see, Centerburg, Fredericktown, and a little bit of Loudonville sprinkled in there as well, the top 3 teams, as you would expect. Players from those teams taking the top 6.
No question about it. We've got What else? Assist leaders?
You want to go assist? Let's go assist. And we have a little bit more parity in this because normally with your setters, they get one or two. But like Lizzie Earlston, she's one of the main bright spots for the Golden Knights. 177 assists, 5.2 assists per match. But you see at the top,
Callie, baby.
And a Vermilia in there as well. 337 assists, 7.3. But Callie Carpenter, the multi-sport athlete that we've seen pretty much every season on the OH.Report, 417 assists, 7.2 assists per set. Sedona Weisbrod from Centerburg. Stella, her sister, graduated last year, and you got another one coming straight in. She's got some kills as well for the Lady Trojans. And Kenzie Stotts, she's impressed me as well for the Lady Devils. 140 assists, 3 points. Defensive squad, it's just they have some errors when it comes to hitting and when it comes to serving that really put them behind. But they can play good defense, and you'll see also here in a little bit, they can block the ball as well. But you got Fawcett there with 231 digs. You have Sydney Opfer with 185, both 5 digs per set. You have Addison Wolford, who was one of the stars of the state Final Four basketball team last year. She has 219 digs. Anna Tyler from Fredericktown, Callie Carpenter, and Ella Boughton rounds it out. I mean, how good is a defense when you have 3 players with over 165 digs? That's really good. You talk about, everybody thinks the sexiest stats, the kills and the blocks, but when you have the digs in there, that's really what makes your defense great in volleyball.
And those are almost the coolest highlights too, when there's just a shot absolutely just rifled at somebody and they take a laser beam and just the soft touch somehow when it's coming 150 miles an hour at you to lay it off to your setter and keep the party going. Speaking of parties, how about the block party, Travis? One of the coolest stats in all of volleyball because I think it's the coolest celebration that they do, and it just brings the juice.
And like I said, look at how many East Knox Lady Bulldogs are in the top 6. Sydney Opfer, not only is she a star down at the state basketball tournament with her, sportsmanship speech and everything like that, but she has 9. And I like the assist blocks. They count as a block, but you separate it from a solo and assist, but that's why East Knox has so many players in its top 6, because they share the love when it comes to blocking. Her and Moore, 99, 94 assists, only 1 and 2 solos, but it still counts as a block. But then you see Zoe Nightzelt from Danville. She puts on a show when she's up on that front line. She has 40 blocks for 3rd. Then Maya Bryant, 4th with 39. Then you have Redmond and Parker from East Knox as well, 37 and 36. So East Knox, they're establishing a defensive presence. It's just the offense they need to get going a little bit more, and they'd have a chance. Like I said, they're a young squad. They get a little bit better. Maybe they'll be moving up those standings here in the next couple of years.
So that's a look around the net here on the volleyball side of things for the KMAC. And just 2 more athletes that I want to talk about here tonight, Travis.
Sure.
They are 2 seniors, 2 standouts in cross country, both undefeated so far, and we are almost.
How is that so? How is undefeated? What does undefeated mean, Brian, in cross country?
I think it means that you don't lose.
Yeah, they finished first. They get the
place.
gold. They get the
First place or
gold.
nothing. Every single time that these 2 athletes take on the course, they end up walking away with the big trophy. So I just want to give a shout out to Will Baker of Mount Gilead. Everybody knew that he was going to be the premier runner in the league coming into the season.
The number 1 team on the boys' side, I believe, as well.
In Division 3.
Yes.
He also has the number 1 time individually in Division 3 this year.
Is that a national mark as well?
He's right up there with some of the best runners in the entire world, folks, at his age classification. 15:06 is what we saw him run at the Stars, Stripes, and Lights Invitational. Perfect conditions out there for him. It was a little bit colder, and he didn't care. He still kicked off his shoes and walked over just barefoot. That's what he does. He gets one with the track that he runs on and just kind of feels the energy and the vibe, and he just takes out a minute better than everybody else. Also, first place finishes I saw in Strongsville this last week against a bunch of teams.
Yeah.
A lot of D1 teams as well.
30 girls teams.
He won Galleon.
32 boys teams.
Won the Tiger Classic back at Seneca East, which is a tough course. So this dude probably going to be the Division I individual champion, but can he lead his team? This is what, when I talked to him after that Star, Stripes, and Lights performance about, is that he was he liked taking that burden on of there's a lot of young dudes on the team and trying to bring them along and show them what he does and follow his lead. Can he lead them to a team championship? I think that would mean more to Will than actually getting that individual accolade.
2 years ago, state champs. Last year, state runners-up, and I have a couple team updates there. You mentioned Strongsville. The boys and girls ran in the Strongsville Invite. 32 total teams on the boys' side. They finished 6th, and I think they won one of the groupings. I think they were champions of that. The girls, 17th out of 30, and like you said, that's teams, all divisions, all sizes from around the state. And then at the Ontario Bill Brown Invite, the Northmor Golden Knights, the girls finished 4th out of 10. The boys finished 7th out of 13. And there is one other runner I think you want to talk about from Loudonville.
How could you not talk about Tess Schultz and what this
the winner
has
of the
done?
Northmore Invite? Yes,
the 2-time All-Ohioan, soon to be 3-time, and the defending Ashland County Runner of the Year, according to their newspaper. She also undefeated so far.
All
she
gold.
has taken action.
All gold.
We saw her win to start the season at Northmore.
Very convincingly as well.
Won at Seneca East in that Tiger Classic, which is a lot of teams. She also won at Ashland and Dover, I saw, and recently just competed this last week and took home another championship. So Tess Schultz has been unbelievable, and she's a big favorite along with Baker to win the Fredericktown Invitational tomorrow, which again, it's a very deep field, a lot of KMAC prowess in there. But those are the two runners certainly to keep an eye on.
Yeah, just like 15 minutes. I walk a mile in 16.
Context.
I just can't. You know what else I walk? I walk the golf course, and we've actually had two teams. Like I said, Fredericktown and Centerburg sectionals are starting for fall sports already. Brian,
wow.
The
first day of fall was what, yesterday? So let's get to it, right?
When do we have to turn our clocks back? Do we have to? I don't even want to know about clocks and things. Is that I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, Fredericktown and Centerburg kicked off sectional play today. Everybody else in the KMAC will golf in the next 2 days. But Fredericktown only had 2 golfers on the team, so they will not go as a team, but individually had a chance of making it down at Denison Golf Club at Granville, the Division II sectional. Cooper Lowe and Braxton Horlocker, both with 88s. That's 4th. Now the top 2 teams and then the top 2 individuals outside of those 2 teams make it. They finished 4th. So just off of it, they missed it by 1 stroke. And 87 was the number to get there. So they missed playoff to get into districts by 1. But a very good season for those 2 Fredericktown golfers. They golfed with Centerburg at Northmore when I did the highlight down at Twin Lakes a couple weeks ago. Very good golfers. Now for the Centerburg Trojans boys, they will be golfing as a team in the district level. Bennett Hill, a 72 at Denison Golf Club. He was the medalist, the champion of the sectional. Nick Myers with an 81. Josh Hackett with a 79. 3 golfers right around 80, and then, 2 golfers around 80, and then Bennett Hill shooting a 72, shooting a par right there. 325. 35 shots ahead of third place Wellington School. Newark Catholic were the sectional champs, but second place still gets you into districts. So the Centerburg Trojans will get in there. Sam Lloyd with a 93, Vinnie Morgan with a 116 to round it out. But the Trojans are going back to districts with a chance to maybe go to a state tournament, which is now, I think, at Firestone up in Akron. I believe Akron now hosting.
PGA course.
That's going to be cool. Never know. Maybe if we have some time, we'll get up there and walk Firestone and get some coverage. But we'll find out down here. It's 3 weeks away still. But
Coming up soon, man. Yeah, it comes at you swift.
And I mean, with volleyball, we're in the second half of the season too. So give us 3 weeks, and then we're starting that month-long trek as well. Man, it's flying already.
Fall seems to go by pretty quick. As soon as those leaves start to change, man. It's just,
pumpkin spice stuff pops up everywhere.
It's been in my house.
Somebody's Halloween tree is probably up in their living room already.
Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. You know where to come.
I'm just waiting for people. There's already memes of Mariah Carey starting to thaw.
Too soon.
It's what I'm seeing, man.
All right. Well, congratulations to all those KMAC athletes that we outlined and detailed, and we'll be back at it again next Monday. Probably going to see a few of them coming up, though, right here and now, as we're going to rewind the clocks back to week number 5 of high school football. We narrowed it down, all of the video captured by our cameras, and we picked out just the 10 best plays of the week. Here they come.
Week 5's top plays coming at you courtesy of Spherion Mid-Ohio. Let's begin with a mammoth game in the WCAL. Defending champion Downton up a score early at Hillsdale, but the Falcons' very first play from scrimmage about to even things up. What a throw from Kel Lewis to Hayden McFadden off the double flea flicker that goes 70 yards to the crib. Admire the execution one more time as the ball changes hands 4 times after the snap like a quality game of hot potato, and it will end in the hands of McFadden in the promised land. More from this game on the way. Let's head out to Marion now, where Chase Ebert had another huge night for River Valley on the road at Pleasant because his wideouts were making plays like this. Colton Lang escaping the defensive back and cuts up through traffic into the end zone for a 42-yard Vikings touchdown. Clean pocket you see there for Ebert. He steps into the throw. Lang simply not going to be denied as he cuts back and drags a defender the last few yards in a Vikings win. At nominee number 3, it's the first of 2 Centerburg scores on our countdown. And just peep the elevation from wideout Trevin Harris in the back of the zone as he soars to the second level. Squeezes this 9-yard tutty. Great pass from Blaine Ball 2 to put it where only the 6'2 Harris can haul it in. And he will hang on after absorbing that big-time hit. More KMAC action at number 4. Perhaps the biggest game of the season in the league, and Northmor's Cohen Becker supplied the hammer that drove in the final nail to Danville's demise, ripping through each level of the defense on an impressive 53-yard touchdown run to help keep the Golden Knights undefeated. 4 different Devils have an opportunity to bring down Becker, but he rumbles all the way to pay dirt, and a 41-6 statement win over the defending KMAC champs to prove on this night that they were indeed the kings of the castle. The battle of unbeatens at Heisey Park saw Shelby join Northmor at 5-0 as Brady Bowman gonna carve up Gallion secondary like a slow-cooked brisket, applying the final sear on his way for a 46-yard score. Watch again as Bowman turns the corner and flips the hot tub jets to high speed and rides that early wave in for a Whippets 35-6 victory on the road. How about one more 5-0 team on the countdown? Things were getting tight at Ontario down the stretch on Friday until this heroic effort from Mason Van Tilberg as he puts the city on his back and sheds about 5 Colts off it too, breaking free for a critical 44-yard touchdown. And as you watch it all go down again, marvel at Mason looking like a creation from the Marvel Universe as he saves homecoming night at NIST Stadium in a 31-14 Warriors win. More legendary action at Nominees 7, where it's 4th down, games on the line for Seneca East closing minutes, and Nicholas Parks goes for it all into the end zone where it's brought in by Taylor Young for the game-winning touchdown. 41-yarder sends the Tigers to the top of the N10 standings as they end Carey's 27-game conference win streak with this clutch pass from Parks to Young, erasing a double-digit deficit down the stretch. Our next nominee displays efforts true to his mascot as Willard's Paxton Flores gets ghost in a crimson flash, maneuvering through a little crease in the Lucas defense and burns up 83 yards on his way down the sideline for a 6-pack of points at the end of the rainbow. A closer look coming up is going to show Paxton catch the edge. He'll wiggle through that small little opening at the second level, and once he hits third gear, the race is all but over as everything starts taking shape in his rear view. More sleight of hand from the Hillsdale Falcons as we take you back out to Dromesville. In what looks like a simple pitch and catch on a 3rd and long, only Hayden McFadden adds an extra toss in the recipe to a streaking Owen Sloan, and you can forget about it when this dude meets the open road. Huge play to start off the second quarter, keeping pace with an explosive Downton offense. 80-yard Falcons touchdown on the old hook and ladder helps keep them perfect on the year with a crucial 35-31 win over the Dogs. One last play on our countdown and a second trip back to Loudonville, where it's going to appear that Miles Marshall's dead to rights behind the line of scrimmage before he flashes his badge and his footwork to display who the real marshal of Trojan Land is. Tough running on this 9-yard score, and we'll run it back again and show you the first contact coming deep in the backfield, but it's far from enough to slow down the marshal. Comment below now to vote for the top play from Week 5.
Double dip.
Get those
Double
thumbs
dip.
working. 2 times points right here and now. Comment for the top play of the week. But we had way more cool football accolades go down on Friday night, didn't we, Trev?
Yes, we did. We have a lot of phenomenal
Phenoms.
phenoms go off. I don't know how many times we've had players go for 4 or 5 touchdowns already this year. It's been crazy, the offense that we had around North Central Ohio, and especially on our cameras right here at the OH.Report, and we've had more. So without further ado, it is time for the Friday Night Phenominees from week number 5. Time for your Week 5 Friday Night Phenominees, presented by Spherion Mid-Ohio. We start in the KMAC for nominee number 1 as Centerburg's Miles Marshall has arrived on the map as one of the conference's up-and-coming running backs with a breakout 165-yard performance on 17 carries with 3 scores against Loudonville. He is now up to 6 scores on the season at the halfway point of the season. Now to nominee number 2. Are you even surprised anymore at the performance of Chase Ebert? The MOAC is stacked with high-quality quarterbacks, and Ebert is a prime example. 17 of 23 passing, 278 yards, and 5 touchdowns as he leads the Vikings to a bounce-back victory over Pleasant to keep them in the conference title race. That's 16 total touchdowns now for the River Valley signal caller. Our third nominee helped produce the biggest win of the weekend and the biggest Hillsdale Falcons dub in the past few years, as quarterback Cale Lewis's 361-yard, 3-touchdown performance helped Hillsdale knock off the defending Division VII state runners-up in Doughton, while ending the Bulldogs' 12-game WCAL win streak, as the state-ranked Falcons should make a nice jump in the polls when they come out tomorrow. Nom Nom number 4 is the newest member of the RPO club, as Lucas sophomore Brady Giegold introduced himself to the Willard Flash's defense, rumbling for 235 yards on 18 carries while reaching the end zone twice, helping the Cubs post over 400 yards on the ground for its second consecutive victory, heading into a big Saturday night clash at Tiffin Calvert. Nominee number 5 helped Shelby make a big statement win on So, a little technical difficulties. We're going to get that fixed right now, but so far, through 4.5 phenoms, a lot of great performances. You saw Cale Lewis in person, and what a win for Hillsdale.
I've seen them twice now, and what I thought was the coolest part about the game against Doughton is that it was 2 sophomore quarterbacks, and they rang up over 900 yards of offense, and they are the leaders of the offense. It's not like they've just got guys all around them, which they both do, but Cale specifically, that's a guy that's in command. We heard from Trevor Klein a couple of weeks ago on this program, and just break it down that, you know, they had high expectations for him coming in. He's got the size, he's got the pedigree. It's just putting it to use, and he's got all the skill set. Hasn't thrown but a couple picks all year too. That's the number 1 set.
Well, I get statistics weekly, and only 1 interception.
That's
what
it.
Coach Klein has. He is a 1,000-yard passer as well through 5 weeks of the season. 55 of 82, 1,005 yards, 13 touchdowns, 1 interception. That's good for over 200 yards per game. But Cale Lewis, once again, vote for him. But we do we have fixed our little problems. Technically, everybody gets technical problems every once in a while, but let's get back to those phenominees.
Well, I think what we're going to do, Trav, we're
just going to post them?
Yeah, well,
Now
we're going to post it as soon as we're done here. So just forget about 2 times points for the phenoms. That'll only apply to top plays this week.
Gotcha.
And then we'll put that out on all of our different platforms for you guys to vote on. But Trav, really up and down weekend for football fans in the state of Ohio, which is pretty normal for us.
Yeah.
Saturdays are usually pretty glorious. It feels like the sun is shining. And
I will say the Buckeyes beat a
get
good
outside
Marshall
of the
team.
shadow, and the Buckeyes looks great per usual.
Marshall's not a
That's
bad
do.
team. They're not one of those teams that you just buy, you give them money to come play you guys. Marshall will probably finish at the top of conference, towards the top of Conference USA. They have some players, but just Buckeyes are really good. I think they're the favorites now at plus 325 to win the national championship. I saw that today on the McAfee show.
To win the whole thing. I kind of like those odds, actually. And a guy that I know is keeping an eye on these Buckeyes each and every week.
Also
our writer
the other team.
For the Cleebus, Mr. Lucas Wickizer is going to join the show now. Luke, obviously, Saturday, a lot of fun. Yesterday, not quite as much. How much different was your mood writing that Buckeyes article than it was yesterday for the Browns?
Oh, man. Can you hear me, Brian?
Always, man. You never have to ask. We got you.
All right. I'm just double checking, because technology is only great when it works, right?
Amen, brother.
This is true.
But anyway, it was a lot easier writing that Buckeyes article after the win over Marshall than it was writing the Browns article. I literally, and people are probably going to laugh when they see this. I kid you not. I probably literally had to take a good 15, 20 minutes just to breathe deep, calm down, not smash the TV, not throw my couch over the balcony. It's just one of them losses. It's just so irritating, But no, it was so much easier writing the Buckeyes article than the Browns one. But yeah, it was pretty up and down.
Let's begin with the bright spot then, right? So, the Buckeyes, they wrap up their non-conference portion of the season undefeated. They beat a pretty solid Marshall squad who scored first, 49-14. But what I liked most, Luke, watching the highlights, is they showed the big play capabilities. Abuka got loose, 68-yarder. We saw an 86-yarder for Judkins. Jeremiah Smith caught a deep touchdown, and then Trey Henderson also ripped off a nice one. So I know it's Marshall, but with Will Howard running the show, I think that you could probably say this might be the best offense in America.
Usually I don't like tooting my own horn. I don't like, boosting Ohio State up more than they already are, because the Buckeyes the last few years before this have kind of been fool's gold. They've been very talented, very strong top to bottom, and just haven't gotten it done. But as far as the biggest complement of weapons for any offense in the country, I don't think Georgia or Alabama even could challenge Ohio State when they're playing at their best. So, I would agree with that assessment. That is the best offense in the country right now.
Junkins, you describe in your article as lightning in a bottle, and he compliments Henderson's thunder. So that has to strike fear in the hearts of opposing DCs every single week because of the big play wide receivers that we have on the outside. So not only is this team, just the complement of talent maybe the best, it seems like they work together pretty well, Luke, and you don't want to look too deep into things because we played 3 smaller schools so far, but the chemistry, it feels like it's all there too. And even the freshman Smith coming in his first season in a college uniform, and it just feels like these guys, they have the talent to go along with the brotherhood right now.
Oh yeah, definitely. I would say so. This is probably one of the more close teams that I've seen in a while. And the last one that I've seen that was this close, and I'm not kidding, I'm not trying to get anybody's hopes up. Last one I saw that kind of gelled at just the right time was 2014. And so they beat Alabama, they beat Oregon, smoked Oregon, So I'm not saying this Ohio State team will do the same thing, but they definitely have the potential to do that. But yeah, it all starts with gelling up front, because if you can have all the talent in the world, but if you don't have your guys gelling and on the same page, you're like a Ferrari stuck in neutral, man. You could have all the horsepower in the world, but you're not going to go anywhere.
Well, that Ferrari can go in top speed because of one Will Howard. Just a question for you. If Will Howard was throwing to Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, how many yards would Marvin Harrison Jr. end up having?
Oh, sorry for that reaction. It was out of character for me, man. But you would have had me salivating there, Travis. Oh, my God. I don't even want to know. That would have been amazing.
That's Big 12 football right there, baby.
oh boy, and if Marvin Harrison Jr. had Will Howard throwing to him, he would have won the Heisman this last year, man. It would have been something that I've never seen before. Because we talk about great Buckeye receivers in the past, like Galloway, Chris Carter, Harry Glenn, those guys. Marvin Harrison Jr. with Will Howard at his peak. Oh my goodness, the best season that never was. In some alternate reality that happened, but unfortunately not in this universe.
So 3 nice wins for them coming out of the gates. Akron, Western Michigan, and Marshall. We outscore them, though, 157-20. So you do like that they've taken care of business. But as they now prepare for the real test of the season, we got to leave Columbus for the first time coming up on Saturday. And a night game, too, at Michigan State, who's also undefeated. Give me both sides of the coin. What's the one reason that really lets you know that this team is for real, Luke, and you know that you're going to be able to count on Saturday when it matters? And then also, what's something else that you're like, I hope this team improves a little bit throughout this week and then moving forward in this department?
Well, I think the one thing that lets me know this team could be for real, could be a national championship winner, not just contender, is just, like I said, they're solid from top to bottom in terms of talent. They're working well together because, as you've known in the past, we might have had a solid offense or great offense, but a spotty defense. Whereas, this defense gives me hope that, they could really shut things down. If they get rolling, we get to the playoffs here, Ohio State could take the whole thing home. I have faith in the Buckeyes to do that. And usually I don't say that this early in the year. But one thing I think they could work on to be better, again, lies with the defense. I don't know what it is with Jim Knowles, and I like the guy. I'm not trying to rag him. He's in the box. He sees the film. He sees everything. But I wish, for the love of God, they would just cover tighter sometimes. They give offenses way too much leeway. Maybe it's PTSD from watching too many Joe Woods Browns defensive plays. But, man, I'm tired of that soft coverage. Tighten up a little bit. Make it like Fort Knox. So, but, yeah, that's the one thing I think the Buckeyes could improve on. But overall, they're a pretty solid team. Do I think they're going to win the national championship? Talk to me if we knock off Michigan.
Got a few weeks before we get there. Next test, as I mentioned, a night game coming up on Saturday in East Lansing against Michigan State. Since you dropped the name Joe Woods, I think that's a perfect segue now to go into yesterday. And the Browns playing at home. They returned to Cleveland, coming off their first win of the season. They got the Giants, a team that was 0-2, and lots of opportunities at the end of the game to win this one for the Browns, and they end up falling short, 21-15. Luke, how many remote throws and verbal lashings did you give to your TV yesterday?
Oh, well, verbal lashings, I lost count. I'd make Bob Knight sound like a choir boy. But I did not throw the remote, so that's a good thing. But no, I just don't get it, man. I mean, I can understand them crapping the bed early. It happens. It's the Browns. They were down 21-7. And thank God we saw family, the other day. They came up to visit. And my brother-in-law's little niece, she's just the sweetest little girl. A hug from her could make anyone feel better, even after a Browns loss. But don't get me started. I don't know what happened. First it was typical Browns, and then they get your hopes up because they come back. But they had 3 freaking chances inside of the 50 to take the lead. And that one fumble by Ford, oh my God, I would have needed to go back to confession. I was raised a Catholic. I would have needed that.
Lord help me.
Yeah, and that was just for last week. But no, I don't get it. You had 3 chances to score inside the 40 or around there, and you just couldn't do it. And these guys are professionals. I don't get it, man. It's just heartbreaking and frustrating all in one.
The miscues down the stretch, obviously, it really hurts because, like you said, it feels like we're out of it. Then all of a sudden, oh, wait a minute. Now you got to get glued again. 2 failed fourth downs. We only need 1 yard, I think, both time, and we're not able to convert. So those things certainly, it's a very Browns thing to do. What hasn't been, though, here of late, and certainly when we had Callahan coaching the offensive line, and man, how much are we missing him right now, though? I don't think that he could even do much for what's going on with all the injuries. So yesterday, we start with 3 of the 5 that we projected to be our starters at the beginning of the year. We even lose a couple of them throughout the course of the game. Wyatt Teller goes down. It looks like he's going to be out for a few weeks. Yep. Jed Wills, I think, got a little banged up, and we had to have Joel Petonio play at 3 different spots, Luke. So that's not ideal, but they still give up 8 sacks. But in your opinion, I love what you put in your article. You likened the Browns and their commitment to blocking to the longest yard, and that scene where Paul Crew, he's infuriated his team, and they just allow everyone to break through jailhouse and just knock them down and sack them a bunch of times in a row. Is that what you feel like this is at some times for this offense? Is maybe just a lack of respect for who's playing quarterback for them? Or is it really just that we're kind of an infirmary unit right now and dudes are just banged up and we don't have the proper guys in the right spots?
I think it's a mix of all that. I mean, I don't want to get into conspiracy theories here. I obviously don't know what's going on in the locker room. If I did, I'd want to be a fly on the wall because I bet a lot of it's interesting talk. But, maybe there is some disrespect going there, because, and I don't want to bring the other quarterback who's up in down in Tampa up, but, it would seem like the offense was different. Say what, Travis?
He got an L this week too, though.
Yeah, he did. He lost too. Bad. But no, it just right. But when Baker was here, it just seemed like he brought an extra spark to the offense, and we haven't seen that with Watson, but for once or twice. But I don't know if there's disrespect going on. I don't know. And then again, also, I just think we're the walking wounded, and I don't want to rag on anybody too much. But the strength and conditioning program, I want to see what that is. I literally would want to see what that kind of regimen is because it's ridiculous. I mean, I know every NFL team has injuries, and so I understand that. But the Browns are just the walking wounded. If we had one healthy team, that for as talented as we are, we could make a Super Bowl run. I'm not kidding. I think we could be that good. But it's just like you can't be your best when you're the walking wounded not even halfway through the season. And so I think it's just a mix of all things. It's I'm not going to say any words because it's a family show, but it's a grand and glorious cluster, if you know what I mean. It's bad.
Well, yeah, Myles Garrett, too, that's obviously the most concerning injury report that we have right now. Both of his feet are giving him problems. It just seems unfortunate for Cleveland that everything's kind of hitting them in the one spot that we thought was going to be their biggest positive. I think overall, if everyone's healthy on the offensive line, Pro Football Focus thought they were the number 2 best unit in the entire league, but we're not even close to having any of those guys playing all cohesively together at the same time. We might only have 1 or 2 starters from the projected week 1 that we wanted heading into this game coming up in Las Vegas. So that's really hurt a lot, obviously, Luke. I will say this because I'm one of those eternal Browns optimists. I can't help myself. I really liked the return of Amari Cooper to looking like he can do some Coop style of things. Yeah. The 2 touchdowns, the one that he made on the very first play of the game was unbelievable. He had the dropsies in the first couple of weeks, and I was like, dude, is this just going to be one of those, we brought up Dwayne Bowe type of years a couple of weeks ago, and it wasn't that. He had a huge game, and I like the connection that he and Deshaun are starting to get. And even Watson, too. I was trying to count 1,000, 2 1,000. He did not have very many of those plays where you could get to 2 seconds before there was a guy grabbing him or pulling at him. So to have at least, granted he got sacked 8 times, but the poise to be able to get off the amount of offense and get us back into the game with that offensive line as bad as it was, Luke, I'm walking away feeling a little better about the offense than maybe I should. And the defense, too, a shutout in the second half. So there's a couple of things that I think that you can take a half smile and just be like, you know what? It's still only 3 weeks in. Right at the end of your article, it says 14 more to go. It is a long season.
Right. No, I agree. And I'll say this right here. I've been very critical of Watson since he was here because I've made no bones about it. I did not want them to trade for him. I wanted to keep Mayfield at least for 22 to see what he would do. But now that Watson's here, he's here. And, people have been hypercritical of him. I've been hypercritical of him sometimes. But with last week's game, like you said, there's not much you can do. I mean, heck, you could add Tom Brady in his prime if you could have pulled him from another reality or something, and he wouldn't have been able to do anything for that behind that offensive line. So, again, I think as long as the Browns can start putting things together next week, they could have a shot at Vegas, who just got smoked by the Panthers, if I remember correctly, with Andy Dalton quarterback.
One of many shocks this weekend.
Right. So if I'm not saying the Raiders are going to show up like that again, but they've got their own issues too. So we'll see what happens in Las Vegas, and hopefully the Browns pull that slot lever and come up all aces.
Cling, 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 cling.
Brian will be there in person to watch.
That's right, baby. I'm flying out, Luke. I got to see this train wreck in person, man. I got to know what it's like out there in the desert, and it looks like a really cool stadium. So maybe I can bring the juice. If I'm the missing piece that the Browns have been looking for, I might start showing up for every game. We'll see what they do on Sunday.
But You guys
Nice.
are still, no matter what happens with the Bungles tonight, you're still in second place, but you're still 2 games behind.
Oh no, there
The
it is.
undefeated black and gold Pittsburgh Steelers and the reincarnated Steel Curtain. That defense looks so good right now, even though we have it.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, look at your boy Justin Fields, though. I mean,
Yeah.
as a Buckeye fan, he's actually looking pretty good for our offense, and he made some big throws yesterday against the Chargers.
Luke, I
Just
have
saying.
to say that I actually did cast like a little bit of a grin when I saw one of the Justin Fields throws on the red zone when it came over. I was just like,
was it that touchdown to put him up 10? That
Bo-
was
boys getting
he
it
threaded
together,
the
man.
needle.
He got his opportunity, and he's seizing the moment right now. So for old JF too, man, hey, it's looking good.
Oh, man.
You remember the guy that was the Bears fan that was dancing at the draft? You and I were in that
Yes, sir.
auxiliary draft area, and he took him. And that guy, I think you still have video of it. The guy was dancing up on one of the picnic benches because he was so pumped. And then the Bears just ruined his career for a couple
Right.
years.
My
Now he's
nephew,
with
too.
the black and gold. Look at him.
Yeah, you know what, Travis, and I will say that I think that's one of the best things that could happen to him. I know I rag on the Steelers because I'm a Browns fan. It comes with
Oh,
the
you
territory.
should. I mean, it's the
Well,
rivalry.
Right. But, they are a first-class organization when it comes to, developing young players and developing their talent. And unfortunately, Chicago and perhaps Cleveland, in a lot of cases, are an exact opposite, because, there's Browns fans that are still mad that we didn't draft Big Ben. But for his sake, I'm glad we didn't. We would have ruined him. So, it's a good thing for Justin Fields. He's in Pittsburgh and doing well. But I got to ask you a question, Travis. I know I'm the guest on the show, but what are you most shocked by with the Steelers and the 3-0 start? Is it the defense for you, or is it something else?
The offensive line. We had so many questions with the offensive line coming in, and their center, one Zach Frazier from the West Virginia University, also a West Virginia native, but drafting him, putting him in, he's been very good at center. We've had injuries, too, on the offensive line, and some of these younger guys have just stepped in and allowed us. We were one of the best rushing attacks until, we faced the Chargers, who was one of the top 5 rushing defenses, but because Mr. Fields, they let him sling the ball a little bit, he made some really key thread-the-needle passes in that game. Calvin Austin, a third, too. Phenomenal. We usually use him as just, punt return. He's a third wide receiver, but he had some big catches as well. But it's that offensive line. I had some big question marks coming in because they're so young and there were some injuries early on.
Right.
But they've been doing enough for Fields, and he has that playmaking ability of running that it's just worked. And Arthur Smith coming from the Falcons to be our offensive coordinator. I mean, it's just a match made in heaven so far. Some Steeler fans, we're not putting up big numbers. I said, well, Arthur Smith is pretty much using what he's given to him, and that was a Justin Fields that got the starting nod 2 days before week 1, and he's just gradually putting him into the offense. So everything, I had some question marks, but they've been answered so far, and I mean, that defense, TJ Watt and Herbig on the other side, I mean, it's just, I yesterday, the second half, I actually wasn't nervous like I usually was because the Steelers had that game in hand. It was nice.
Yep.
And looking at the score right now, 27-3, Buffalo on
the
top.
Bills.
It's not even the break yet
Yep.
in Buffalo, and they're
boy.
all over Jacksonville. I think there was a lot of question marks and a lot of people talking about the demise of the Buffalo Bills this year. They're a couple quarters away from being 3-0 and an impressive 3-0 so far,
Josh
too.
Allen. I mean, yeah, they didn't have wide receivers, but you have a guy like Josh Allen that can throw it to anybody, and they have wide receivers in there. They have 2 really good tight ends. Dalton Kincaid has a touchdown already, and James Cook. I mean, he's not a slouch. He comes over to Buffalo, and he's just been doing great stuff. And we have Josh Allen. I mean, you can do stuff.
Quick question for both of you guys before we wrap things up here. So 4 quarterbacks playing tonight, a number 1 overall pick in Trevor Lawrence. Josh Allen, of course, doing what he's doing. You got Joe Burrow, another number 1 overall guy, going up against a number 2 overall pick in Jaden Daniels. You're starting your franchise tomorrow, Luke. You get one of these quarterbacks. Who are you taking?
Oh, man. I'm torn between Joe Burrow and Josh Allen. When the Browns had a chance to draft Allen back in 2018, that's actually who I wanted. Not saying I was against Mayfield, but I wanted Josh Allen. I mean, he's 6'3", I think 245, I think is what or 6'5", 245. So he's got a cannon for an arm too. But if I'm starting a franchise, I think I'm going with Josh Allen, barely over Burrow. But yeah, I would pick Josh Allen.
Travis?
I'd go Allen over Burrow, even though Burrow has better playoff success, but Burrow's been hurt a few times already.
Right.
Josh Allen has more longevity. I think he's just got a little bit better build. But can he get the big win in the playoffs? That's the question. I'd still take Josh Allen, though.
They've been so close, right there on the brink a couple of times.
Stupid coin toss, or he'd probably have a Super
Coin
Bowl.
toss away. I think you're right. I'm 100% in the Josh Allen
Yeah.
camp. I had this debate on a radio show a couple of weeks ago. One person on the side of Joe Burrow was just suggesting that he thought he was far and away the best quarterback in the world, even beyond Patrick Mahomes, just didn't have the pieces. And I named about 4 quarterbacks I'd rather have. I'm not that big on Burrow. Would I rather have him over Deshaun Watson? Probably. But over Josh Allen?
And look
Heck,
at
no.
division championships and things like that. You need a quarterback to lead you. Burrow got drafted. Oh, there's gonna be this big run of NFC, AFC North championships for the Bengals. How many do they have? 2, 1,
Couple, I think. Yeah.
yeah. And that was the year they went to the Super Bowl and then lost.
Yep.
Lost to the Rams.
Well, Luke, the long way to go here, of course, for both the Browns and the Buckeyes. So hang in there, buddy. Keep enjoying your Saturdays, as I'm sure you're going to again coming up here this week, even though we're going on the road. And for the Browns, remember that there's a warm piece of sidewalk somewhere out there, and sometimes the dogs find it. So keep on doing what you do, buddy.
And you got plenty of time for your Blue Devils to turn it around as well.
Yeah, that's a tough one. I love the Blue Devils too, but this team's young. It might just be a rough year. I mean, it happens to everybody. I think they need to relearn some things, relearn a killer instinct, and start clamping down when they have these games in hand. They've had a few of them, but they're young, but I still love them, and I love my Browns, love my Buckeyes, and I love writing for you guys. So I win no matter which way you slice it.
I love it. Positivity gets you places.
Hey, and I love you too. So thanks for watching, guys.
Yes!
But I'm not feeling so well. We'll see you next Monday.
Well,